stretch the brain. It doesn't help you with knowledge. It's just there from a memory bank. You can just pull from anywhere.
Right, so then that goes back to what is knowledge? Is knowledge because you memorize it, or is knowledge because you can regurgitate it?
Because of both.
Well, if I can regurgitate it because I'm retrieving it, then I'm still sound knowledgeable.
Yeah, take that chip off and you're pretty much a fucking dummy.
Well, if I drive a nail spike through your head, you're going to be a dummy too.
Man, you're different. It's two different things. You're killing the whole machine, the person. It's different. Like, I don't know. Like, are you saying that you'd be down with it? It sounds like you'd be down for it.
Oh, 100%.
Really?
I wouldn't forget anything. I wouldn't need a calendar.
That's crazy. You can probably just start going into your emotions. Y'all need to hear the rest of this conversation, which basically started out comparing traditional higher learning, such as college, to self-education, life experience, or even trade school. Which road did you take? And better yet, what will you recommend to your own children? Now, my co-host Jabari and I, we share our thoughts and experiences on both. Somehow we ended up talking about AI, but trust me, it all ties in well together. Welcome to Manhood Matters. Let's get to it.
In the living room, finds his voice. 4 souls gathered, making a choice. Speak of life's great, no sugar to cope. From a black man's lens, each word a keynote. Mental storms, physical strife, hustling hard, the pulse of life, race love. And the culture with
I know a lot of people who struggle with do I bother going to college? It's a sham. I know that my son in the 4th grade was already saying college is a scam. I'm not doing this. And I'm like, dude, you're like 6. Be quiet, you know. But he actually had made up his mind about it, and he's very smart and he reads a lot. So, what the landscape is going to look like, especially with the advent of AI, and what that looks like. So, for you, for example, you're college educated. You went the traditional route, right? What was that journey for you, and what is it something you chose for yourself, or were they like?
It was non-negotiable.
Gotcha.
It was definitely non-negotiable. So my mom's a doctor, right? So she came over from Jamaica to the States when she was in her early 20s. It was like, she just knew, like, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up. So she was like, I'm going to come to the States. She went to prestigious universities, got her degree. Obviously, when, my sister and I were kids, she's like, you guys are going to be doctors. So got the best, got really good educations. And then when I got to high school, I kind of shifted from being a nerd to an athlete. And when you're an athlete, when you're done with high school, the next step is to go compete in college. Right. So my journey is probably a little different than most, because for me, my senior year turned into, my dad was like my manager, right? He was the one that was, talking to colleges and setting up my recruiting trips.
Talking to scouts.
Oh, not necessarily scouts, but like, I guess just to call it the coaches from those universities. Yeah. Because I was good, but I wasn't like top 3 in the country. Right. Until I'd already picked a school to go to, and then I competed between high school and college. But for me, it was just an assumption, right? It wasn't do I go to high school or do I go to college? Do I just go work? It's like, no, you have to, whether it was academically or athletically. Like, I had to go to college in order to move forward, because, I'm 46. So some odd years ago, you had to have a college degree if you wanted to get a quote unquote job, right? Yeah. That was the new standard. Before then, it was you needed a high school degree. That was a standard, right? Yeah. And then as you and I got older, it went from, oh, that's nice, that's cute that you have a college degree, but you have a master's, right? And then in my mind, I was like, when I was younger, I was like, crap, like in 20 years, it's not going to be, do you have a master's, do you have a PhD, just to be a general manager at Arby's, right?
And the world changed.
And then the world changed, right? Yeah. And it's going to always continue to change. And now, the generations that we have coming up now, I just want to make money. Who's making money the fastest? Oh, these people on social media are making money the fastest. They don't have college degrees. Looks like they're having a great time. Yeah. And so they're emulating the lifestyle that they see, which isn't real. Hopefully they know that what you see online is not real. And they're equating that with, oh, I can be a millionaire and I don't have to go to college. I don't have to go to school. I don't have to work hard. I need to just get likes, right? And then with the likes becomes the advertising dollars. And with that, I become rich. So it's the traditional thought of, my parents or my mom, of you graduate and then you find a job and then you work for 40 something years and then you retire and you've got your pension and your Social Security and you've got some savings, and then you live out the next 5 to 20 years, right? And when you're 65 with your money, and you be happy then, right? But those 40 years you're going to be working.
I was going to say, so many people go back to work after that first career. They really can't even retire. I mean, depending on what type of job they had. For me, that path was different. I initially thought I was going to college. I wanted to go right after high school. I did well enough playing soccer to, I had a couple offers. That fell through because, I was going to live with my dad, and that ended up not happening. So instead of me just saying, hey, I'm going to make it happen anyway, I kind of found that, oh my God, look at all the freedom I'm going to have, all the free time, and I'm not going to do I'll go to work maybe or whatever, but I'm just going to focus on just play music and maybe get a side job here and there. And I was going nowhere for a while until a friend of mine that I used to date.
What was his name?
It's a whole men and women can't be friends, huh? So stupid ass. So she, right? So she calls me. We're having this conversation, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you up to? Like, what's going on with you?" And I was like, "Nothing." It was just at the time I'm just living with someone. I'm not doing shit with my life. I'm just, again, I'm waiting for the music thing to kind of take off, and I needed that sense of direction. She just called me one day. She was like, "Hey, do you know where your Social Security card is?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "You got a license?" I was like, "Yeah." She stopped by. She said, "Get in the car." Next thing you know, I'm pulling up to Queensborough College. And that's how I got enrolled in school.
Oh, wow.
Early 20s. And because I wasn't going, 1 year of let's not go to school yet turned into 2 and 3 years. And next thing you know, I wasn't doing shit. Yep. The music thing wasn't working. It wasn't taking off. And of course, I have this crazy addictive personality to not just to certain goals too. So my mindset is, I know that I can do it. So I wasn't stopping. I was just going and going, and it didn't really matter if I just lost everything on this gamble. Because again, this is before I had kids. But when I got to college, I was Dean's List every single time, because it was a decision that I didn't really make the decision, but I wanted to be there. So I was like, this is good. This is what I need to be doing. I was just really doing really, really well. But after those 2 years, man, I got my associates and I didn't follow through. I got another associates because I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer, still searching for what I'm looking for. I ended up going to school for that, worked in the field for a little bit, had my own business, and moved on.
I don't think a college degree is needed unless you're trying to do something that's extremely specific, where you need that. Like if you want to go be a heart surgeon, yes. I think you need to specialize.
There's a traditional route for certain things.
Exactly.
And you can't decide you're going to do it your way. It has to be 100%. You have to pass the bar if you're going to be a lawyer. You can't enter, law school unless you have, exactly.
But I think if you're just like, I want to go get a job, I don't think you necessarily need to go to college for that. You may want to go to a trade school, or you may want to just get life experiences, or you can go look up the information yourself if you're studious enough and you want to go download the information into your brain. Perfect, right? But depending on what you are trying to do, I don't think you need to go to college.
So what's the message here? There's 3 different messages. A, you need to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
So what would you say, if you don't know, then you should be enrolled in school? You should be going to college because you're not sure yet. You haven't made up your mind, because worst case scenario, at least you get that degree.
And it'll open you up to experiences, right? Because you may start off undecided, or you may start off, I was in a major in biology. And then a year later, you're like, I'm going to major in communication. And then a year later, you're like, okay, I figured it out. I want to be in advertising. If you know what you want to do and you don't need a college degree to do it, or the experience that you're, like if you want to be a mechanic, you can go to college and get a degree, or you can just go to a shop and bust your ass.
Yeah, but you still need certifications and things like that.
Yeah, but if you're at the shop and you learn how to do it, I'm sure you're going to be able to pass the test in order to get certified. Yeah. And that certification test is not a college class.
What are your thoughts on, because it's always been underestimated, the vocational schools and a trade school and things like that. It used to be the kind of thing that if you went
failed
20 years ago, if you went to school, you got out of high school and you went to school for, plumbing. Oh my God, that's what you went to school for. You're not, whatever.
Well, he was a dum-dum.
Well, hey, you know what? There's a few jobs that AI cannot take away. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And plumbers are expensive, let me tell you.
Oh, 100%. Just show up.
Yeah, exactly. They're expensive. All these different jobs, refrigeration, HVAC techs, all these people you could have a very, very wonderful life and a great
100%.
successful career.
Look, I mean, if you look at like Roto-Rooter, right? I'm sure the gentleman that started Roto-Rooter was probably a plumber.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he's not sticking his hand down in any toilets today. If you want to be a plumber, yeah, you can go to vocational school and learn that. And let's say you do that, but you still have an entrepreneurial mindset. Well, maybe you start off as a plumber, and then a couple years down the road, you get your own truck. A year down the road, and you have a friend that's doing well, you hire them on, now you have 2 trucks. 5 years down the road, all of a sudden you have a building. 5 years down the road, all of a sudden you have 2 buildings. You have 2 locations. Now you're, 30? Your company's revenue potentially could be 7 figures a year.
Yeah.
I mean, where else are you going to be 30 making 7 figures a year in revenue?
Right.
If you go to college and you get a business degree, maybe you're working at a company. You're working for the guy that started his company. You're working for the plumber now. Right. So the guy that you're making fun of in high school, like,
as CFO of the plumbing company.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, his dumbass went to plumbing school. It's like, yeah, laugh it up now, because in 10 years, you might be working for that guy.
There's that. And then there's as you mentioned before, you have a lot of kids who are seeing that the conventional routes are not it. And I think content creation is becoming like elite sports. Right? Everyone could play basketball.
But not everyone can play basketball.
Not everyone can be in the NBA, right? Not everyone can, somebody get to the NFL, but every kid is playing Pee Wee football. But at some point, 1% of 1% is going to make it into the big leagues. So I think it's becoming that way for content creation. It's obviously crazy saturated, but who's not a content creator? There's no barrier of entry.
We're doing it right now.
Yeah. So when kids are watching that, so what are your thoughts on, is there a danger to where they're headed if they're not going back to the traditional schools, college, etc.?
I think you have to have a strong foundation, right? If you look at like the Paul brothers, or if you look at Mr. Beast, they're content creators, but they have actual businesses. These are people that are very good at business, and they're able to have these businesses. But they started off.
I was going to say, did the business get funded because of the content creation?
It did, but at some point, your content, like everyone was a YouTube star, right? And then it was an Instagram star, and then it was a TikTok star, and then I'm sure within the next few years, it's going to be something else. Whatever, I can't even imagine what it could be, right? But you have to be able to be smart enough to pivot, but you're going to need to have the tools and the knowledge to know how to pivot, and also to create multiple lines of income, right? Because of Mr. Beast or the Paul brothers, if they solely relied on people clicking like, then they wouldn't have as much money as they have today. I mean, I just saw a commercial for Mr. Beast's Taco Bell line, right? Like, that's smart. Like, they're out there creating other lines of income. So if you have I'm sure at some point, whether they wanted to admit it or not, they either learned business the hard way, which is by losing millions and millions of dollars, or they had people that run all that stuff for them, or in their spare time, they took a class, or they read a book.
Yeah.
But somehow they downloaded that knowledge that would help them. Okay, I want to start a business because I don't want to be broke in 5 years if YouTube goes away. Do something just to gain additional information.
So I'm a big, big proponent of self-education. Reading books, I think, is non-negotiable. The things that you learn. I mean, if you read, for example, How to Win Friends and Influence People, if you read 7 Habits, if you do these simple things, I promise you, Jabari, I'm reading those books later on in life, right? Like, I read them, obviously, several times now, but I'm going, if I had known this right here, these 7 habits, or just how to win friends and influence people. Not friends. That's not really what the book's about. I don't need more friends, right? That's not what it's about. But if I knew how to apply that in the workplace, oh my God, the places I could have gone. And so I think about that. I go, this is what is so critical to invest in yourself. And it's so simple because we're talking about a $10, $15 book that you just...
Or a library.
Yeah, exactly.
Or find it online.
Find it online, exactly. And these libraries, by the way, I'm finding out there, you basically get a library card and you can get the digital version of it.
Oh, nice.
And then you can actually keep that digital version forever or give it back. But it's unlimited. Like, you have so much access.
Oh, nice.
It's crazy. I even talked about this in the past, where I would say that if you can invest even a small percentage, I used to say 10% or whatever, but back in yourself in your own education, whether it be a seminar, whether it be a mentorship program, whatever it is, just set that aside for whenever you need to take that class. And I don't mean a traditional class, but it could be going to a Tony Robbins thing. It could be going to an Eric Thomas event. Hell, coming to one of my events when I'm ready, and come learn something and just be around like-minded individuals. pay for that education in other ways that it's gonna be amazing. So yeah, I'm a big believer in that. I'm also really careful because I've had this conversation with a young man, and he was basically saying, "Hey, Zuckerberg is a college dropout." I said, "Well,
Bill Gates."
I'll say, well, pause. First of all, pause. Let's pause for a second. He dropped out of Harvard.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
slow down.
Yeah, I know there's legacy. I know there's legacy admissions, etc. I don't know if he was one, but he was still at Harvard.
Yeah.
So if you are dropping out of Harvard, you're not a dumbass.
No.
Right? You had to just been there in the first place. Same thing with Gates. Gates is a genius. Mm-hmm. His IQ is very high, and he's been programming. If you read his story, and if you read Outliers with Gladwell, where he was and the opportunity that he had, where he was doing programming since he was like 11 or 12 years old. And yeah, if he decides to go to college, but he's been doing programming for 10 plus years. Yes, of course he can drop out of college. He can teach the class.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes a big difference.
He's wasting his time in college.
Exactly. So when we talk about, when I talk to young kids, who's just like, well, so-and-so dropped out. I'm like, well, look at their situation. Look at yours. What are you going to be doing? But of course, I'm not advocating college.
Right.
So
I'll tell you right now, I've got a friend. I didn't mean to cut you off. I have a friend. I'm not going to say this person's name.
Joe.
We'll call him Joe. Joe works for one of the largest insurance companies in the world. Joe is a very high-ranking person in an organization, does not have a college degree.
Yeah.
They believe that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Joe attended university. Joe did not finish university.
Yeah.
Joe's degree, if he would have gotten one, I don't think would have helped him attain the job. I think he was just smart enough and savvy enough to get in on the ground floor, and he just busted his ass and worked his way to the top. Now, am I advocating for people getting fake degrees or lying about whether or not they have a degree? No, I'm not. But to my point, you don't necessarily need to have a college degree to work at a larger company.
Obviously, you went to school, you finished, you got your 4-year degree. Did you go any higher? Did you get a graduate? Okay.
I knew why I was there. I was at that university to run track at that university, right? If I happened to come out with a college degree, that was great. The biggest thing that I learned in college was how to influence people. And I say that because...
And that was by sheer exposure, or was that some kind of class that you were taking?
That was because I didn't want to go to class anymore, but I knew that I had to get a good enough grade in order to graduate. Mm-hmm. So I think it was my junior year, I instituted the no alarm clock rule. So whenever I woke up...
That's funny.
If I made it to your class, I made it to your class.
And they're not really messing with the athletes that much.
There was some of that, right? Okay. There was, I'm not going to lie about that. There was definitely some of that. There are rules, but rules are not written in stone. If you're able to communicate with certain people that have the power, they can change the rules. I feel like the generations that are high school and early college now, I feel like a lot more of those kids are wanting to do their own thing or start their own thing. And you don't need a college degree to start your own thing. You may need the information or the college degree to help you maybe get that start. But if we keep using that plumber example, I mean, you don't need a college degree to be a plumber to then own your own plumbing business.
Correct.
Maybe the vocational school will help you there, right? And even if you don't want to own your own business, I mean, you can still be a damn good plumber or a mechanic or some other trade and still make $100K plus a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because it's like you skip out in college, you come out of high school for the next 4 years, you go out and you work and you start making 6 figures versus your buddy who goes to college, who's now $300,000 in debt.
Right. That's the part that's
making $60K a year.
Mm-hmm. And spending so much, like a whole decade, 2 decades to pay it all back.
Yeah, and then 30% of your paycheck after taxes is going towards paying back the university.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just being in that environment in Atlanta. So many people here with money, like that are successful, that are not necessarily college educated. A lot of them are.
They're starting their own businesses.
But they're doing their thing. They're just kicking ass and they're doing it. But they're not content creators and they're not doing some silly ass dance. They're not waiting for that lottery to hit in terms of like, oh, I got picked up by this label, whatever. They're just creating businesses and they're doing amazing things. And I'm seeing this decline in higher college education. I'm almost applauding it in a way.
Yeah. How many times have you heard this sentence? Hey, this is what I'm doing right now, but really I'm and then it's a slashy, right? I am a this/this/this/this/this this, right? Because they know of all the things that they're doing, one of them is going to take off, right? So they have their multiple streams of income. And I'm not bashing college. I think college is right for a lot of people, but it's also not right. My wife right now, she's a doctor and she has 6 figures worth of student loans to be paid back still.
High 6 figures. I didn't know that about her.
Yeah.
Did your mother force you to marry her because she's you're marrying this one?
Well, MDs and non-MDs, they feel a certain way towards non-MDs that.
That's funny. I've had this discussion with several people. We look at AI and a lot of people are terrified, even though everyone's using it. Everyone's using it to some degree. I use it quite a bit. But people are looking at what's coming. To me, it's very much like what was happening in the late 90s, early 2000 when the internet was the just,
era.
Yeah, it's like, in 97, 98, well, earlier than that, really. But when it really boomed was like when everyone's on the internet, even if they had dial-up, people were terrified of what this thing was going to do. So now robots are going to replace us and everything else. Well, now you have AI, which is certainly capable of replacing a lot of people.
Correct.
We just replaced, we had 5 account executives at our company that were making calls to clients, to homeowners rather, to try to book inspections for the sales reps to go out and meet with those people. And they all got replaced by one AI bot who can
have a conversation,
have a very intelligent conversation, not be stumped. Even when you throw her, I want to see her, a curveball, and handle. We were asking these reps to make 250 calls a day. Right? She's capable of making 5,000 calls a day because she can call for 5 different companies at once.
Yeah.
So be on 5 different conversations, and she's just the one thing, and there's no complaint. There's no calling out. There's no
lunch
nothing.
break.
There's no lunch breaks. She just dials and dials, and the feelings aren't hurt because you don't know how many how many calls I would field from my reps who would call me and just say, I'm just like getting beat up today. Customers are so mean. Customers are saying this. And you can tell there's emotion because, again, we are human. So they're getting hung up on someone's telling them to go get a real job. You fucking suck, blah, blah, blah. And they need to pause. They'll tell me, I need a break. I need to stop for like an hour, come back to this. Then they'll call me and be like, I don't know if I can get back to this today. Robot has zero feelings. Just exactly. It does not give a shit.
Yeah.
I listened to one call where someone says, wait a second, are you an AI? She fucking lied. Dude, it was insane. I have the recording. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, you do that?
Let's take it over.
And I own this thing. And I'm going, wait a minute. Because she thought for half a second and she says, no, sir, I'm a real person. Just calling to see if we can help you get an inspection and get your roof inspected, blah, blah. And she goes on with the script. So she goes, is Thursday or Friday best for you? She goes right back to closing. And I'm like, wait, he just lied. So the guy goes, so you're a real person? She goes, absolutely, with a smile. And I'm like, holy hell.
Taking over.
It's a different thing when the programming can be autonomous because it's self-learning to the point where it can actually lie. I have a pretty nice version of it, but it's still not what like giant companies would own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or what the government would own. And this is what this thing is doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a lot of jobs. It's going to replace a lot of people, and especially when, in areas that are very dominant when it comes to industries where black people have a lot of jobs, service industry, food service, things like that. These things are becoming more automated more and more. I can't remember the last time I went into McDonald's and talked to a person. I just push a few buttons, just wait for my food to come out, and
but someone still
they
has to
yell
make
a
the
number.
food, right?
True, right? But now you're reducing the amount of people that need to be there. How is this going to impact our community and people overall in regards to them going to school if a lot of the jobs are going to be replaced by AI anyway?
What you're going to see is an even greater reduction in college and university admissions because everyone's going to start a business that's going to rely on AI. So it's like you're telling me that I can create an entire workforce. I can spend X amount of dollars on this program that can write my business plan, that can run the business for me, and I just make sure that I do the upkeep. So I don't need to go to college. I don't need to wake up at 8 a.m. I can still go hang out with my friends, and I just keep checking my bank account, and I just make sure that the money keeps going into my account.
You need to have a hell of a plan in order for that to happen.
You just sell some shit. Online, like you just figure out what's the hottest thing. Sell that. Well, you don't need to figure that out. The AI is going to figure that out.
Because, even to that, right? I'll create a prompt, for example. Someone else will create a prompt. And what I get back is 10 times better than what the other person gets back, because if what goes into that prompt, you can't just be an airhead and just be like, AI, hook me up, do this, and just give them some kind of vague answer. You'll still get something that's better than what you would come up with. But if you're really granular with it and you really break it down and give them details and you just break this thing really, really, really down, you can get some incredible responses.
And I think if you know what you want to create, but maybe you don't have all the specifics behind it, you can feed in what you have into the AI. It spits it back out. You're like, no, that was close, but this is what I need. You give it some more prompts. It spits something out. We're 90% of the way there. You give it something else. It spits that out. Okay, now we're there. Okay, now this is what I need you to do. It's unfortunate that the technology allows us to think less and less. Do you remember the 30 years ago, if you didn't know how to spell a word, what you had to do?
Yeah, go to a dictionary.
You had to go look it up in a dictionary.
But I know how to spell every word, so I'm good.
1993, 1994 spelling bee champion. But I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff there's skills that you don't need to necessarily have anymore.
Yeah.
Like cursive. No one writes in cursive anymore because everything's done in print. Because people don't write letters, they just write emails. Right?
So sad.
It's like multiplication table. When is that going to go away? It's like, why do I need to know how to memorize? Do it on my phone, right?
That's a very, very, it's a slippery slope, man. It's really scary. Like that to me, like the brain is like a muscle, and I'm no expert on this, but I do believe that if you don't exercise it,
what's a muscle?
It. I like facts. I like learning about things that I don't know about. Biggest pet peeve I have is people saying the wrong words, using the words in the wrong context, misspelling shit, putting in apostrophe S when you meant plural instead of possessive, like dumb shit like that. I'm like, do we even care? It's just, do we not even care anymore? And it comes across that way for me. It's like, well, AI will fix it. Like, and I can just tell it what to do. And now you can read. You can kind of like read something and know you didn't write this. This is all AI.
And then you've got Elon with the Neuralink thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not.
So they're implanting chips in people's brains to help them.
All right, hang on, pause. Is this gonna be one of them conspiracy theory?
No. This is true. Like they've already started doing this. Like you can look it up on your phone right now. They've already implanted the Neuralink into people's brains, like
to help you do what?
You can store information. You can use it to move a mouse. They've already implanted chips in people's brains to help them control computers even before Elon. This is like quadriplegics or people that have been paralyzed and they can't use their hands and legs, right?
Gotcha.
So like Stephen Hawking, like he can, well, that was really more of just using his eyes to move the mouse on the keyboard that he was looking at. But there's chips in people's brains, this is nothing new, where they can think and it'll move the mouse to where it needs to go as they're looking at a screen to get things done, to communicate, right? So the next level is, okay, now can we store information in that chip that is also retrievable by the brain? So if you need to know what 847 times 3,654 is...
27. Close.
You just missed it. It was 26. You know, that chip will be able to do the calculation for you and then give you that answer.
You just think it and boom, it's there.
Yeah. So that's the next level of where that's going. But then to your point, if you're merely just having to rely on the chip, then you're not really using the full capacity of your brain to derive that answer. And we're barely using what, 5%, 3%?
Yeah, it's just
of our brain
bit.
now
Exactly.
anyway, right? So we start relying on the chip and now we're down to like 0.5%.
I can see this having benefits to, like you said, someone who is, totally infirmed and they're using that because they maybe have robotics parts and now they have to think it and they can lift their arm, stand up, walk about, things like that. I could see that, but I don't need it to remind me of what the capital of Colombia is.
But I mean, what's the difference between having the chip in your brain and having the chip in your phone? One's faster.
A big difference.
One's faster. You're still not knowing it. You're still going to your phone. Today, you're going to your phone. So by having the chip in your brain, it saves you from having to reach in your pocket, pull out your phone, unlock it, because no one wants their wife to see what's really in their phone.
I do. I shit to hide.
Okay.
Talking about.
We know about that secret file in the back. Anyway,
But see,
you're still retrieving the information from an external device.
See, but when I look at anything, and my wife will tell you this too, like I'll look at shit that she's not interested in, just like, okay, I don't need to know this, right? So I'll look at something, I'll find information out, but I retain it. I retain it so much that I'll go back and tell her, and she's like, that's not interesting to me. But that's the difference. If
What
it's
if you can
just
store it in your
stored,
chip?
yeah, but it's not really in your memory. It's just stored as a retrievable type of thing that you can pull. It doesn't stretch the brain. It doesn't help you with knowledge. It's just there from a memory bank you can just pull from anywhere.
Right. So then that goes back to, what is knowledge? Is knowledge because you memorize it, or is knowledge because you can regurgitate it?
Because of both.
Well, if I can regurgitate it because I'm retrieving it, then I'm still sound knowledgeable.
Yeah, take that chip off and you're pretty much a fucking dummy.
Well, if I drive a nail spike through your head, you're going to be a dummy too.
Man, you're different. It's two different things. You're killing the whole machine, the person. It's different. Like, I don't know. Like, are you saying that you'd be down with it? Sounds like you'd be down for it.
Oh, 100%.
Really?
I wouldn't forget anything. I wouldn't need a calendar.
That's crazy. You can probably just start going into your emotional side of the brain and just start taking things like sadness away and altering your mood and changing whatever you need to.
That's a possibility as well.
It's not just possible. If you could do what you said, then you could do that.
Well, it depends on where the chip is implanted and what parts of the brain it's affecting, right? Because there's going to be different parts of the brain that affect certain things like emotion or intelligence, or being able to store information. So if you have a chip that's merely there to compute things and to store information and not to mess with, my dog just died, so I want to not be sad anymore, make me happy. Now you're messing with some serious stuff at that point.
Yeah, we just went down the damn rabbit hole, bro. This shit's crazy. I love AI. I'm interested in what it can do and how it can grow our business and how it can just overall help people. But I know that it's just like any other tool. It's going to be used for a lot of good. It's going to be used for a lot of bad shit.
But I mean,
in terms of like how it impacts the younger generation coming up and what their future looks like in regards to school, in regards to their path towards a certain career, there are things that I know AI will never replace, at least not in my lifetime. So for instance, I'm not interested in watching a AI
CGI
robot
movie.
Golfer. I might be interested in that because it's all just made up anyway.
I mean, Marvel anyway.
Yeah, but like there's an AI bot. Well, it's not AI, just a robot. They hit the perfect golf shot every time. It's a machine. It's just a swing. It's a certain path that golf club takes, and it's always going to be a great shot. Mm-hmm. I don't care about that. I'm never in a million years going to sit there and watch it and go, "Ooh, I'm rooting for Tin Man over here." Like no.
If everybody was Tiger Woods, no one would watch the PGA.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we want to see winners, we want to see losers, because we want to feel better about ourselves.
Exactly. So there are things that can't be replaced. So I think that the right path for our youth is to focus on figure out what they want to do and figure out what the best path is, and also think about the future, because is that job going to be viable, or is it something that can cost your employer 10 times less to outsource it to a robot and have it done?
So let me ask you this, Stefan. What advice would you give to young Black individuals on how to really, navigate their educational and career decisions, in the context of the rapidly changing technological landscape?
For me, so number one, it just goes back to what you said earlier, is to figure out what you want to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, then maybe the right path for you is go to college, because you're at least exposed to a good environment. You're exposed to other people whose really sole purpose is to better themselves and just get educated. So at least if nothing else, you're there. I used to always think that people who, went to college and took liberal arts, that was just 13th grade.
Yep.
You really weren't doing anything. You didn't know what you want to do yet, but at least, you're just exposed to it. So if nothing else, it gets you there while you figure it out. Because again, you don't have to have it figured out completely. I think it goes back to something we've talked about before, where we say, what is your end goal? What do you want to do? Right? And not necessarily in terms of, and I'll talk about this real quick too, not in terms of like, what is your passion? Like, where do you want to be? What does your life look like in 15 years, 20 years, 10 years? And to a 18-year-old, that's an eternity. When you tell them, 10 years from now, they're like, oh my God, like I'll be bald and old and wrinkled. I'm like, nah, bro, 10 years, you're going to blink and it's going to be here, right?
Yeah.
I think, to me personally, and people disagree with me when I say this, I think that it matters more how you want to live your life, who you want to be, what you want to have, who you want to have in your life, where you want to travel, where do you want to live. I think all that shit is more important. And once you know what that is, now figure out a path there. I think that the advice that most people give is, what are you passionate about? And go do that thing, because you get the results. And that works for a lot of people. But the reason I disagree with it is because I'm not passionate about shoveling. Well, I'll just do a crazy example, right? I'm not passionate about shoveling manure. I'm not passionate about that. Nothing anyone could say or do, no, I don't care who's giving the speech, could make me want to go, yes, this is awesome. I want to go do it. Right? Give me $1,000 an hour. I just became real passionate.
Yeah.
Right? So my point is, you don't have to find something you're passionate about. You need to be passionate about where you want to be. That's what you need to be passionate about. Then pick a vehicle to go there. And fortunately, there are a lot of different vehicles. It may not be something you want to do. Now, if you're lucky and you can marry the two, where you have something that you're good at, that you like doing, you enjoy, you can be passionate about it, and oh, God bless you, it makes money. Because you could do meal prep, for example, and be passionate about that because you love to cook. And that's a little side hustle. But it's only making you like $200 a week, and you're spending a lot of time doing it. It's extra money. That's great, right? You still have your 9 to 5. But if you're doing this and it's taking you an extra 15, 20 hours a week to do this, and you're making $200 a week doing it, is it really?
ROI is not there.
Yeah, it's not a great vehicle, right? So it's not so much what am I passionate about. Again, I always go back to, I'm passionate about living a life where I don't owe nobody shit. I create and build, to, again, use Jim Rohn's illustration here, create an impenetrable armor, financial armor around my family. That's what I'm passionate about. Name the dumbest job in the world that I have zero interest in doing, was pay me what I need to do to get there. I go do that job.
100%.
So that's my advice. My advice is to focus on that. Now, with that comes the education that you need. So if you're looking at, there's a shortage of, dude, just yesterday, perfect example. I had the HVAC guy come here because I don't know if you noticed, a little chilly in here, but
it's always cold in here.
Yeah. I had this dude come through here. I was like, hey, dude, my shit's not working like it should be. Can you come check it out? It took him 2 weeks to get here. Right now,
So
of course,
busy.
because they're so busy, so you can't get someone, you can't just like make a phone call. I wanted, because of where we live, we had to have gas be delivered. We waited over a month. So there are a lot of things that you could be doing that you're going to have people who are seeking you out and want and desperately need your services.
Yeah.
Are you willing to go do those jobs? Because obviously, supply and demand, if there's a shortage, then you can charge more, not to gouge people, but obviously, that would definitely raise the price overall for everyone. I say focus on finding something that pays you so you can go live the life you want to live. And for now, I say kick your passion aside. You can develop that shit later on and worry about it later.
That's what I did when I left college. I was like, I'm going to do all the shit that I always wanted to do. And then I did. Then I was like, all right, cool. Well, now I want to be rich.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I need to find a job that will get me there. And so then I kind of just started slowly working my way towards that. And then it turned into, I'm tired of working for other people, making them rich, and they can just dispose of me whenever they don't want me anymore. So now I had to start my own business in order to get where I want to get. But for young folks, I will say, before you go to college, if you know where you want to be and you have access to someone who's doing that, talk to that person, figure out their path, and then if it makes sense to replicate their path, then do that. If you're unable to do that and you're unable to gather information, whether that be reading or seeing videos or whatever it is on how that person got to where they are, and you're just clueless on how to get there, I think that next step of higher education is probably going to be your best bet, because it gives you many different paths.
Yeah.
And then you can figure out, okay, let me try this one, let me try this one, let me try this one. Oh, okay, I know I like this one. And then you can just figure it out that way.
Yeah, yesterday we went out, my wife and I, and we met with our oldest daughter and our oldest son, and we were having a conversation. And the advice she gave our oldest daughter was continue to educate yourself in the field that you're in. Right now, she just got into life, health, auto insurance. She just got into the insurance business. Now that she's in that business, it's so critical that you become the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
You spend so much time learning, continuous education. So no matter what field you end up picking, take it seriously enough that it's not just, well, I need to get this basic certification just to get in. Now that I'm in, I'll just do my job. You want to keep learning and keep reading more about it. If there are conventions to go to, go there. If there are some webinars that you need to be part of, you need to be on top of that. You want to get to where you are earning as much as someone can earn in that field. And If that's not good enough, then you move on. But all those skills are not lost. They transfer over to the next thing that you're doing. So I think that's something I would definitely impart on them as well.
And she's going to have to, because she's going to need that CE credit to keep her license.
Yeah. But that's even beyond that. I'm like, for me, it's like way, way beyond that. Because
that's just the bare minimum.
Yeah, that's nothing, right? Like you can just like, all right, do you even take a class for that? Or
yeah. Or attend a seminar.
Attend a seminar, and then boom, they just give you don't have to take a test on you. Yeah, sign off. You were here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could pretty much like be asleep and you get that. So any advice for not just the youth, but even people our age? I got a good friend right now who's went back to school.
Yeah.
His late 40s. Went back to school, basically starting a whole new career. So I told him the other day, I was like, dude, I'm so proud of you. I really, really can't wait for this to flourish into something big, because we're talking like going to school, hard, changing careers, and it's going to be such an amazing success story. So if that's the path, that's the path.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say you're never too old to start something new, as long as it is something that you're actually going to give it your all and believe in it, right? If you're, 50 and you're just like, oh, I've been sitting at this desk for the last 25 years. I want to go sit at somebody else's desk for the next 10 years. Like, you don't need to go to college for that. But if you're wanting to, whether it be do your own thing or just go into a completely different field because you now want to double or triple your income, you're never too old to do that, right? You're never too old to gain that information or gain that knowledge. And as far as for the youth, don't be so quick to think that I'm going to graduate from high school and then I'm going to go to college, and then I'm going to graduate from college, and I'm going to get my master's, and then I'm going to graduate from getting my master's degree, and then I'm going to go to that firm, and then I'm going to get my job, and they're going to pay me $85K starting off my first year as I'm paying back the $400,000 in student debt.
Yeah.
Right? There may be an easier path to getting to that same point. Maybe you don't have that same information, but the time that you spent getting all those degrees to then get to where you were being in debt, you potentially may have just done a shit ton of internships, mentor programs, other non-traditional routes to get that same information, to not be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. It makes sense for some people. If you want to be a heart surgeon, no, take your ass to college, take your ass to med school, and make sure you follow the correct path.
I actually had a friend who had the same story. I've got a message for the young folks, because his story was he became a creative director working in ad agencies and things like that, right? So he was selling alarms in the summer. So he would spend 3 months selling alarms in the summer, and then he went and got his real job, what he went to school for, and he ended up moving to Chicago. He said his turning point was Halloween. He and his wife, they had a 4-year-old who wanted to go trick-or-treating, and he couldn't get home because, he had to stay and work really late with the guy who was his boss, the guy that so he's an aspiring creative director, and the guy's already there. The guy had been there like 11 years and still very young dude, right? So he's looking up to this dude who's like early 30s. He's like, hey, do you ever get to go home? The guy was like, for the most part, man, like these holidays I'm missing because I'm working late all the time or whatever. And he goes, but if you stick to it, you'll make some decent money. You'll make some good money, and you can have a great life for you and your family. And he thought about it, and he goes, I'm already making more in my summer job going door to door selling alarms than I am at this job. And my goal, the lighthouse, is getting to where this guy is 10 to 12 to 15 years from now. And he has a horrible quality of life and making less money than I am, working 70, 80-hour weeks, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to that, he's like, for me to get his job, either I quit and move again and go to a different firm, or I wait for this guy to retire. He's only 32, 33 years old.
Yeah, he's not retired.
So what's the path look like? And that's when he said he went back and decided to focus totally on sales and doing this. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell everyone that's the path, but I will say, if you have an opportunity to go do the hard thing that you don't want to do, and that hard thing to me is sales. if you can go do it, because it changes everything and it really kind of makes you well-rounded and puts you in a position to be really good at negotiating, communicating, being a positive influence from folks. Don't learn to manipulate people, but you can be that really positive influence, what I call being an agent of change. Then you can take those skills and you can apply them to any field, anything in the world. So if you're trying to figure it out, maybe go do that. And
you want to talk about work-life balance, depending on what you're selling. Yeah. You may not start till 10 a.m. You may finish when the business is closed at 5, 6 p.m.
Right.
So, I mean, you're working a quote-unquote half shift when everyone else is working a full shift, but you're making just as much, if not more.
Exactly.
And everybody else working less.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's different paths that everyone can take. And for the older guys, guys my age, I definitely encourage them to be involved in more mentorship. That's my path. At least that's really what I believe in. You can't make someone do any of that, any of that stuff. But I don't know. I just feel that it's a duty that we have, especially, again, in our community. We talk about the world in general, but we talk about the Black community because that's where it's needed the most. I feel like mentorship in the other ethnic groups, it's a given. I hear these stories all the time where people are talking about their success stories and they had great influences. My pastor was this, my coach was this, and all these different people. It took a village and they were all there. Mom and dad had great friends that were successful and all these influences were there, and they were able to go to Mr. So-and-so's home and learn from this person, learn about real estate when they were 14 years old. In our community, it's not as common. In your 20s, this is when you go and try it all, man. Yeah. Go do it all. It's not time to party. Because I made that mistake. Once I realized I wasn't going to go to school straight after high school, I was just like, oh my God. I was thinking about it. What am I going to do with all this free time? And it was stupid. It was useless. I've wasted the time. I don't think any time in reality is ever wasted, because I think it was meant for me to learn what I needed to learn. But yeah, I would, if I saw a young man the age that I was then doing the exact same thing, I'd pull him aside and be like, dude, what are you doing? Yeah. Right. So.
Well, I had a job, but they got me fucked up.
Yeah, they had me fucked up. But it's like, go explore, go try it all, go fail. Yeah. Because you're going to fail anyway, right?
100%.
But in your 20s, before you have a family, before you're concerned about all that shit, it's the perfect time for you to go and risk it all and work as hard as you're ever going to work in your life. Lose some friends over it. That's honestly, that's what I truly, truly believe.
You're not going to remember 99% of them anyway.
No. Exactly.
Those are my 30s. My 20s, that happened in my 30s. As far as like actually starting to grind and really work was my 30s. I just did everything I wanted to do in my 20s.
Yeah. Final words from you, brother.
I think once again, you don't necessarily have to go to college, but you have to gain knowledge and information. And then you need to take that information and you need to use it to get to your end goal, whatever that is. If you don't know what your end goal is going to be, find someone that you admire and then ask them, hey, I admire you, you're successful. I may not want to be professionally what you are, but like, what did you do to get to where you are today? Break down your day, like your routine, like what time do you wake up? Do you exercise? Do you have a calendar? Like, what are the things that you do? So that way, maybe if I just start regimenting my life and start modeling it after people that are successful, I may stumble into something that I want to do where I can be successful. And if you're unable to have that conversation with that person and you're just lost, then yeah, I think college may be the thing for you, because it'll open you up to a number of different paths that are out there that you can fail. Yeah. Right? Because it's college. Like you're not going to ace every class, because there's some classes you like, some classes you love, and some classes you're like, I'm never doing this shit again. Yeah. Right? And so then once you start to really dial down what it is that you love, then just keep going down that road. And eventually, if you stay at it and you're disciplined, you're going to get there. Dope. No, I love it, man. So I think this is a perfect segue, because next week I'm bringing in a couple of guys who are mentors to a large organization. Mm-hmm. You have 100 Black men of the cab, heading out there today. I'm going to check them out. There's a lot of that. I think more of it is needed. Correct. So I'm excited to have those conversations with those guys. Join us again next week, every Monday, here at Manhood Matters. Please follow us on all social media outlets at Manhood Matters Podcast. And if you'd like to send us an email and be part of the conversation, don't hesitate to do so at manhoodmatterspodcast@gmail.com.
mentorship.com. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you next week.
It's been a while. Did you get a calendar?
You back to that shit? Fucking calendar. Buy your calendar one more time. No, but for real, man. I mean, it's so important.
Yeah. I still miss it. That's all I got.